D&D drops its Portuguese translations. We have a full breakdown of the story here.
The Brazilians are in disbelief.
On Friday, Wizards of the Coast announced that it was ending its Portuguese translations of D&D sourcebooks, with the final 3 products in the line set to be released later this year. Keep in mind that all of these books are older books like Fizzbands and not the upcoming 2024 release. This move comes less than 2 years after Wizards had officially taken over production of the D&D translations from a third-party licensor, and it marks a rather sad end that many D&D fans south of the equator had expected for at least a little while. We have a full breakdown for you here and why all of this matters, and why this is such a bad look for Wizards of the Coast. Now, in case you didn't know, Portuguese is one of the top 10 most spoken languages in the world, with a large concentration of speakers located in Latin America. In fact, according to UNESCO, the Portuguese language is the most spoken language in the Southern Hemisphere, mostly thanks to residents of Brazil. However, despite a large and growing population, Portuguese has always been something of an afterthought for the D&D team. It wasn't until 2019 that a Portuguese language player's handbook was released for 5th edition. And when Wizards of the Coast took over publishing of its non-English language D&D rulebooks, it didn't announce that Portuguese would be one of the languages it would be translating those books into until nearly a year after it had made its initial announcement. Many Latin American D&D fans became worried when Wizards of the Coast downsized most of its LATAM team, people who were in charge with cultivating a D&D fan base south of the equator. When news that Wizards was ending its Portuguese language support, many fans pointed to the removal of dedicated staff who were tasked with cultivating this fan base in Brazil and other LATAM countries as an early sign that they kind of knew this was coming. In its announcement, Wizards of the Coast pointed to rising costs and shifts in global demand as the reasons why it was discontinuing its Portuguese line of D&D books. While Brazil has a growing tabletop market, the reality is that many people there are priced out of purchasing these rulebooks at retail prices. One person told me that a D&D book could be the equivalent to 1/6 of a monthly wage down in Brazil, which frankly is too high a cost for a lot of people to afford. Now, there are many ways of reducing costs, such as, getting local production started up. It seems that trying to find a solution that wasn't just discontinuing the line, it wasn't really something that Hasbro was interested in. Keep in mind that because prices are so out of sync with the economic realities down there, many folks have often resorted to piracy to get their D&D content, even after official Portuguese translations were released. This has always been a problem, and I heard a lot of comments from people that I talked to just stating that basically piracy is just going to pick back up now that the Portuguese support is ending. Now, obviously, there's a lot of frustration within the Portuguese tabletop RPG community, which, as I mentioned earlier, has been growing for a while. There are a lot of RPG products and third-party RPG projects that have managed to thrive in that scene, including Tormenta, an RPG that uses a D20 system, and was originally produced using 3.5 as a base rule set. We'll note that Catarse, which is, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, that's a Brazilian crowdfunding website that's kind of like an equivalent to Kickstarter, is currently promoting 2 big RPG projects, including a Portuguese version of Avatar Legends. In fact, 4 of Catarse's 10 biggest crowdfunding campaigns ever were for RPGs, including 3 for different Tormenta projects. Of course, this is a bad look for Hasbro, which just posted a big loss in 2023, cut a ton of jobs, and now is seen as retreating from a market that should be ripe for growth, especially when it has products, the 2024/2025 core rulebooks that should be easy sellers anywhere. Now, obviously, there is a tabletop RPG scene and a market for tabletop RPGs in Brazil. But the question is, once again, how can D&D crack into it, and does Hasbro even want to? We've seen these problems in other non-English speaking countries before. Look at the struggles that D&D has had in Japan traditionally, despite the fact that so many Japanese projects and IPs are heavily influenced by Dungeons and Dragons culture and, general influences like that. Anyways, Let us know what your thoughts are about this unfortunate news story in the comment section below.